How did you find me?
His mother used to own the house, willed it to his sisters. The patrolman saw his car out back.
Get him out of here.
You sure you don't want to sit down, Scully? I'll let somebody take a look at you.
I'm fine.
To episode 41 of Most Unwanted, an X-Files podcast. I'm Chex, I'll be your host this lovely evening, and I'm joined as ever by Luke. How are you today, Luke?
It is a lovely evening.
It is a lovely evening.
A Sunday evening recording. This is the first time we've done this in, ever, isn't it?
Like a Sunday recording?
Yeah,
I think so. I think it's the first weekend recording
I
we've
don't think we ever record on weekends, do we?
We usually record on an evening on a weekday. Yeah. It's because we're so busy the weekends.
It's been a busy week, to be fair.
Yeah.
So we had to sort of shuffle things around. So
yeah.
I mean, that leads quite nicely into the usual what we've been up to segment.
What have we been up to this week, Luke? Do you want to start us off?
I think yours is probably a bit more. I reckon you start.
Well, this week I've been. It's my birthday. It was my birthday a few days ago, so it's dating the podcast a little bit. But when at the time of recording, it was my birthday a few days ago. So yeah, I've just been sort of visiting family a lot. I went out with the work guys, and then I had a few people around here, including yourself.
Yeah.
We had a few drinks at the house. But yeah, it's fun. It's weird. The older I get, the more I stop caring about birthdays.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really celebrate them.
Yeah.
But it's been nice to just sort of, again, I suppose it's just an excuse to sort of spend time with everybody and just get everyone that you love around. And
pretty much, yeah. I think this year was the first year where I can't even remember what I did for my birthday, my last birthday anyway.
Oh, you and Tasha had a joint party.
Did we?
Oh,
yeah. It was, yeah.
We listened to Christmas songs all day in October.
Yeah, that was weird. Wasn't it? Yeah. I couldn't even remember that then. I forgot what was happening on that, but yeah. Yeah, it's fine. And like I said, as you get older, you just sort of think, before when you're like early 20s, you're like, oh, I'm going to plan this for my birthday, we can do this, we can do this. As you get older, you just think, do you want to go to the pub? And
I still like planning things. I think the thing is, because me and Jem bought me, we're planning on going on a trip around Wales in a couple of months' time. And so that's going to be like what I do for my birthday, even if it is a few months afterwards. So yeah, I still enjoy planning that side of things, but half the time I just can't be bothered.
Yeah.
That's you know what I mean? And it's just laziness.
If
I could just get everyone to go, like, should we just do this? But half the time it tends to be, you're trying to plan something and there's always like 10 million obstacles. So I just think,
especially with your birthday being right at the big end of January.
The worst time to have a birthday. Like, it's not only have we just got past Christmas and New Year, but no one's been paid since like the middle of December. And then it's right at the end of January. So it's an absolute nightmare.
But, February's a short month, so...
Yeah, we'll be better off at the end of this month.
Yeah, it'll be not too bad. Yeah.
What about you? What have you been up to?
Pretty much exclusively, apart from house stuff, I'm in the process of buying a house at the moment, so that's... I don't know if I mentioned that on this podcast.
I don't think you did. Yeah. I think you text me about it after we recorded, so... Yeah.
I mentioned it on another podcast as to why I haven't done much for that podcast. I've been buying a house. But, yeah, so we've been going through all the process of that at the moment, which is it's a long process, or it seems like a long and hard process at the beginning, and then we're at the stage at the moment where I just keep pestering people that has things happened or has this happened. So that's all it has been. So really, the only thing I've been doing this week is playing Resident Evil 2.
It came out recently, didn't it?
Some of you might think this is 1998. What's this going on? They remade that for the next gen consoles, and God, it's good. It's really, really good. It's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. There's a character in it called, I think the fans know him as Mr. X.
Oh,
interesting. I don't know if that has a link to the X-Files.
I doubt it, but
Possibly
it's interesting.
Not. But yeah, he's basically this huge monster that you can't kill at all. You can shoot him as much as you like. All the other enemies you can stun them, kill them, whatever. It doesn't matter. This guy, you can blast him with a shotgun in the face, and he'll just like stop for about 2 seconds and then carry on coming after you. And he follows you around the entire police station that the game's set in. So if you're trying to do this puzzle where you have to try and move bookcases around, you hear thumping, and you're like, shit, he's upstairs, he's coming down, I've got to move these quickly and try and run away. And yeah, it's sort of like Alien Isolation. I played that once where you have that constant like presence after you. Yeah, it's
I wish I could play Resident Evil games. I wish I could play any horror games, but I just don't have the stomach for it. And you know from personal experience, because Luke delights in getting me to sit down and play some of these games and watching my reactions. They just terrify me. And you know what? I'm fine with horror films or anything like that. Doesn't bother me. But there's something about being in control of the character. And you know what I think it is as well? Is I buy into it way too much. So there was I think it was Outlast, I think. And I actually managed to get fairly far in that game because I just started running through it. And I just stopped caring about anything and just running through it. But that was an anomaly because most of the times I just edge ever so slowly into everything. And I build it up for myself even though nothing's happening. Do you know what I mean? And I just get so scared. I can't deal with it. I get to the point where I'm not even enjoying the game. So why am I doing it? You know what I mean?
True, so, that's the thing. If it's something that you're not enjoying, then it's not worth it. But I've got to be honest. I'm a massive fan of like the Resident Evil series. So it was a delight when they said they were remaking this because this is arguably one of the better or one of the best entries in the franchise. So it's just great. Like because it's gone. To be frank, Resident Evil is really cheesy. I think pretty sure if you
always has been.
If you sort of YouTube some voice clips from the very first game that you've never heard before, it's ridiculous. But yeah, the second one was sort of like that, but a bit more serious. Whereas now they've sort of remade it to be a bit more gritty. So it's actually a lot more visceral actually being in it. So it's not like, oh, this enemy here, like whatever. Like when you actually encounter like even just the bog standard enemies, you're like, this is terrifying. You actually have fear of like dealing with it. So, but yeah, it's pretty much been my weekend, I suppose.
Well, it's good to hear. It's good to hear you got a distraction from the pain in the arse that is buying a house. You need something to just keep you going. But what I think we should do is quickly move on, as irresistible as this conversation is, to our latest episode of The X-Files, coincidentally called Irresistible.
And you have a go at me.
So yes, this is season 2, episode 13 of The X-Files. Like I said before, it was titled Irresistible. The original air date was January the 13th on 1995, and it was written by Chris Carter, directed by David Nutter. So we're back to the good old faithfuls of the series.
This is the what would you call them? The pillars of X-Files?
I would say so. Whenever I see these two names, I'm always safe in the knowledge that this is going to be an episode. Do you know what I mean? A good episode.
That's the thing. It's not going to be experimental and weird. You just think this is just going to be a good, solid episode, if nothing else.
I don't think I've seen a bad episode of these two involved in.
No.
I think there might have been one in the first season. I think it might have been one of the ghost ones I didn't like, but I'm not sure.
I don't even think David Nutter did one of those, but it escapes me.
We'll have to have a look back at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, shall we get straight into the rundown?
Let's go for it.
So we start off, we later find out to be a funeral. And we see a woman, she's giving a heartfelt speech about her friend, Jennifer. And the camera pans over to her open casket. Everyone at the service walks towards the casket, and then, just that line where they sort of all look at the body and then leave, which I've always found really strange myself.
To be fair, this entire episode for me, I knew it was going to be a tough one. You know me personally, I've got this morbid fear of death, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh no, this is going to be like death-centric. I'm like, oh no.
There is a lot to that.
Yeah.
Her family are the last to go up to the casket, and they sort of spend time there. And we see a man who we later learn is Donald Faster. And he enters and watches as the family sort of grieve. And the funeral director comes over to him and tells Donald that the family have requested a graveside service, so the burial has been rescheduled to tomorrow, and the body will be kept there overnight.
Yeah. They were playing a song over this, weren't they, as well? That is it Juniper's?
I didn't notice, to be honest.
I think there's like a classical song. Absolutely love that song. It's like one of...
Was it
like,
good?
I'm not like a classical fan, but
Yeah.
anytime I'm like, yeah, I love this song. It's a classical banger, that one is.
So yeah, we get this creepy vibe from Faster straight away.
Yeah, off the scale with this guy. Like,
Yeah.
every time he's on... he's one of these villains that like... I just wanted him to go away every time. Like, in the best possible way. His acting is fantastic in it.
Yeah.
He's so creepy. So creepy.
Very similar to the way we see Toombs with the staring.
Yeah. I think this guy is better than Toombs, though. He's way more creepy.
Yeah.
Way more.
I get that, yeah. Because he's got this just sort of air of danger about him, do you know what I mean? And again, sort of without ruining the contents of our episode, I think that's the kind of the point of the whole episode, that you don't have to be monstrous to be this monster.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, Faster watches the family leave and approaches the casket himself, and he commented she was a beautiful girl and starts stroking her hair.
Yeah. I thought this was going to go into like necrophiliac
territory.
I was like,
it's not far off though, is it?
Yeah.
So he closes the casket, and later that day, the funeral director is closing up when he hears a noise behind him. And he investigates and finds a man crouched down by a coffin. He asks who's there, and the man in the shadows stands up and appears as a sort of, like a monster.
I thought he was naked at first. I thought, oh my god, what is that? That's what I was feeling. I was like, oh god, what's he doing?
But you know what it looked like to me? Because you don't really see it. You see his shadow, basically. But it looks like a sort of monstrous frame. It looked to me like, you've seen Jeepers Creepers, haven't you?
Yeah.
Very much the same as that guy there, where it's just like, it's a humanoid figure, but there's just something not quite right about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just looked weird. Like his ears were pointy and stuff.
Yeah, like
stuff like
it's
that.
like a demon almost. But he turns the lights on, and it's Faster. It's not a monster, it's Faster. And he asks what he was doing there, why is he shouldn't be there this late. And he notices then that Donald's got Faster. I keep calling him Donald at the start, but Faster was holding a pair of scissors, and he looks on the floor and sees blonde hair scattered around.
Yeah.
And goes to the casket, opens it up, and finds that he's cut it from Jennifer. Like, just cut clumps of her hair out. He calls Faster a freak, tells him to get out of there, and Donald just leaves without saying a word.
I wouldn't be arguing with the creepy guy
with the scissors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I thought that myself, but fair play to him.
Yeah.
You know, he's got moral standards.
Yeah.
But this is the weird thing, because Faster doesn't argue with him. It's just like he's got what he wants, and he just leaves. He just walks away. Which begs the question: why didn't this funeral director report him?
Yeah, I mean, they bring that up later, don't they, as a reason to why he doesn't?
They do. They mention it. Well, they don't mention it about him specifically. They mention about people in general. There is a...
So I guess that's sort of their...
And it makes sense. And I think that, again, that's what the whole episode...
To be fair, if I heard that was happening at a funeral parlour, I would not be going to them for my, family's funeral. But yeah, so it's understandable.
So we get to the title sequence, and we open back up in Minneapolis at a site of a graveyard. And Mulder and Scully are being briefed about an incident by another agent. And he tells them, basically, the drill is for them. His words, if anything seems slightly freakazoid, they call the FBI. That's what they do.
This guy, just quickly...
Mo Box, his name is.
Mo Box. He has a connection to... I bring it up every now and again. He has a wrestling connection.
Oh, does he?
He was in a film with Bill Goldberg.
Was he really?
I can't imagine it being good.
I actually really liked this character.
Yeah, he was great.
I don't know why. There was just something about him where he made a great sidekick.
He was very honest, wasn't he?
Yeah. And he just got on with what he was doing, and Mulder, he helped Mulder out, and he just wasn't the usual pain in the arse that you see.
He was just there, he was his buddy.
I liked him, It was like a buddy cop film half the time. So he shows them to this open grave and a desecrated body in the grave. And the agent tells them he wants to know if they think there's been any UFO activity in the area. Goes on to say that it has all the telltale signs of UFOs, such as hair being removed and nails being cut away. And Mulder tells him he doesn't think this is the work of aliens and suggests looking for fresh footprints instead. He goes on to suggest he may work there, but it's more likely worked for another cemetery in the past.
Yeah. He even mentions MUFON as well in this bit, doesn't he? One of the organisations. I like that little connection to other stuff we've heard mentioned in the past to sort of tie it all in.
It just links it all up. Nice pretty bow. So later that day, Mulder checks if Scully's okay, because Scully just seems, throughout the graves, like around the grave, she seems a little bit taken aback, I might say.
See, I was really confused at this at first, because I thought, well, she's seen worse than this. Like, why is she, like, acting like this? It was strange, but then by the end of the episode, it made a lot more sense as to why, but
the whole Scully storyline throughout this is very interesting, because, again, it plays into the whole idea of, she's chasing aliens and monsters and weird worm men and God knows what else, but it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be horrifying for it to be monstrous.
Yeah. And also, it's just, with this all air of death around it, it's just so connecting to the fact that she nearly died like a few months ago, you know what I mean? So it's bringing that grief back that she's not had chance to, like, she pretty much as soon as she was out of the hospital from there, she was straight back into dealing with...
And we said that at the time, didn't we? She literally didn't have any chance to come to terms with that. But not just that, when you think about it. Has any agent in the history of the FBI been kidnapped as much as Scully?
I know.
Like, every other episode, she's getting taken away, literally taken away. So... Yeah. But anyway, at this point, she's not that bad. She just seems taken aback by it all. So, Mulder asks if she's okay, and she tells him this is the first time she's seen a case like this. And when Scully asks why they do it, Mulder tells her, while some people collect salt and pepper shakers, others collect dead things. And he tells her he doesn't understand why either types of people collect the things they do. Yeah. So, nice little comparison there, but I don't think it's quite the same thing.
It's a bit of a weird comparison to make, but I guess at the end of the day, like, everyone's got a hobby.
Yeah. But I suppose that goes into the next line of dialogue as he's not really taking this seriously, and he was never taking it seriously from the start. Because Scully asks him why he's not shocked by this, and Mulder tells her he suspected this wasn't UFO related from the beginning. And Scully asks, well, why did they come down here? They took a flight, they've been travelling for God knows how long. And he shows her a pair of tickets to the Vikings versus Redskins match. So it was an excuse to get down to...
I like that it just sort of... Even though he's got this... He's always trying to do the best thing. Still, sometimes he's like, I just wanted to watch a game.
I fancy watching the game, and fair enough. Like, he's gone down there, he's done a job. Yeah. Have a bit of downtime. And he did buy a ticket for Scully as well, so fair enough.
Fair enough.
We cut then to... And I'm going to pronounce this wrong.
Yeah, I can understand.
Fiticello?
No, that sounds right.
Fiticello? Yeah. So we cut to Fiticello Frozen Foods, and we see Faster in a job interview. Oh, he's so creepy. Even when he's just talking normally, he's so creepy.
Again, that every time he's on scene, I'm just like, oh, go away. Just go away.
even his haircut, and I don't mean to, you know what I mean? But like, he looks too prim and proper.
Everything he says just sounds like... do you know when you get like a computer to talk to you and it just sounds weird? It's just like that, and it's just like, what is he on about?
It's like he doesn't understand what emotion should go where in the sentence. He tells the woman that's interviewing him that he was in the cosmetology industry, dealing with hair and makeup, and he compliments on her lip colour and guesses the shade. Immediate red flag for me.
Yeah, I'd be like, okay, this interview's over.
He tells her he needs this job to go through school where he's studying comparative religions. And then he tells her he's very religious himself. And the interviewer mentions how important religion is to the manager. So yeah, he's looking for another job after the disaster of the last job. At the FBI field office, Mulder and Scully enter the building whilst Mo watches the game on TV. And he apologises that they had to miss the game, but more bodies have been found to be dug up.
Did you notice that on the TV they mention, I don't know if it was at this point or a bit later in this scene, the commentator says, and it's Chris Carter with the catch. And I was like,
no, really?
Wait a minute. I was like, did he put that in on purpose, or is there actually a Chris Carter, I don't know.
I'll have to have a look into that. Yeah. No, I don't know myself.
I've had a look at the notes this week after I'd watched the episode, but I didn't notice anything about a reference to it or anything like that. But I was just like, wait a tick, was that on purpose?
That is interesting.
I thought it was quite funny.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mo tells them this makes 3 bodies found in the last 3 days. And on all the bodies, the hair was cut with... on 2 of the bodies, the hair had been sheared off. And on the other body, fingernails pulled out by what looks like pliers. And Scully starts looking through the images, and she turns over to one page, and then it just hits her like this shock, or whatever you would call it. And she has to leave the room. She closes it up and leaves the room. Mulder asks Mo to put it out on a citywide notification that a serious... escalating fetishist is at large. And Mo tells them this will scare people, but Mulder warns that his compulsion may be growing and he might start moving to alive victims once he gets the taste for warm flesh, I believe is how Mulder put it.
Pretty much, yeah.
This was the interesting thing. This is where what we was talking about before. Mo tells them that people around those parts... He mentions a previous case of a serial killer.
Yeah.
And he says people around these parts simply won't notice things happening simply because they choose not to believe that people are capable of these things.
Yeah, it's one of those type of areas where nothing goes wrong, so they just think, well, no one would do that, you know what I mean? So when something does happen... They don't even think they could happen that way. Yeah.
Which I thought was fascinating, this whole concept. Because, okay, they're talking about this quiet town and people don't believe murderers can live in this quiet town, so they choose to sort of look past it, if you will. But let's open this up. Let's open this up to a wider scale, to a worldwide scale. Couldn't this be attributed to aliens as well?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, murder, okay, if you go to bigger cities, New York, London, Paris, murder is more... It happens more often, so people can understand that. But on a worldwide scale, all these mysterious things going on, which they are in this universe, but people just don't believe it, so they choose to look past it.
True.
So I thought this was really interesting as a sort of micro scale version of Mulder's job.
Yeah. Do
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is true. Actually, even though you know it's happening out there,
people are still looking past it. And there's how many cases has there been where these weird things are happening? People just look past it, because they just don't choose to believe that things like that couldn't happen.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't thought of that.
So I thought it was a very fascinating sort of comparison between the two. Anyway, him and Mo both start, and this is what we were talking about before, best buds all the way through this episode.
Yeah.
They both start to strategize on how to handle the case, with Mo suggesting it will be difficult to get the manpower to tackle this until the weekend, sort of showing us now that, it's a small police department.
Yeah.
They're not used to dealing with something of this size.
Yeah. They're not going to have police officers who come in on their
on a Saturday, he said.
No way, It's interesting, because you always think that the police force works 24/7 all around the clock, but it's...
Well, in Washington, I bet you do. You know what I mean? Or in New York.
But in like a small town...
When nothing ever happens, why would they come in on a Saturday?
Yeah, true.
So, outside, Scully, again, obviously distressed. She takes a seat, and Mulder approaches and tells her that they've got work to do. And they're going to have to cancel their flight.
Yeah.
And again, she just doesn't seem right. This isn't the Scully we've known since the start.
Yeah, she's really shaken. More so than when she's being told that there's a stretchy, monster man who's out there.
Well, again, she's been kidnapped before, and she's not been this shaken. Something is something. It seems like it's I almost thought watching this episode, has something like this happened to her? Do you know what I mean? Because she almost seemed to relate to it too much.
The only thing I can think of is her being in the coma recently, and that sort of closeness to death, I guess,
and not knowing what's happening to you. Yeah, it could be.
It's just sort of like this latent sort of trauma that she's not been able to process yet. So that's the only thing I can think of. That it's all coming back to her now. It's just in this episode that it happened to.
I think you're spot on. I think that's what it is. Mm-hmm. At this point, Scully goes on to write up a field report on necrophilia. She does mention during this that due to a psychological profile of death fetishes not existing, she's choosing to write it herself.
Yeah.
And she mentions that it's increasingly possible that the suspect will escalate to murder, and basically saying he wouldn't be able to satisfy his urges with a dead body for much longer. She notes it's somehow easier to believe in aliens and UFOs for people like Mulder than it is to believe a monster could kill the living to scavenge from the dead.
There's two notes about this report that made that I thought was an interesting observation. One, the pictures where it was against people who were fetishists. I thought I would not have my picture put on that. Like, this is probably like the casting crew of like, I'll just use my picture. No way. The other thing was just, this was the point where I realised this is just going to be about a guy who, defiles graves. This isn't, I thought, unless they twisted at the end and I don't know, he's some kind of like demon or something like that. Where I was like, this is quite real. This is quite grounded.
Did you get that at this point then? Because despite the flash of the monster.
See, I thought maybe it could turn at the end. I thought, what's it going to be? But I don't know, it just felt like they were just keeping it like a grounded case. But they did like keep sprinkling to keep you guessing. But this was the point where I thought maybe this is just going to be a guy.
Yeah,
which is really interesting for X-Files. I
completely agree. I really like this episode for that reason. I didn't pick up on that until much later in the episode, if I'm honest. I thought this demon monster thing was going to come into play. And it wasn't until later that I realised that, no, it's just a sort of almost like a metaphor for him. But the thing is, again, she mentions here how it's easier for people to believe in aliens and blah, blah, blah. It is that, again, another really interesting fact that they believe all this crazy things and all these things that can exist in the world, but they can't quite comprehend that a human being, what they are, can be so different to their moral code and the way they think. It's like it's a completely different not person, species.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's, and to be fair, like the way some people's brains are like that, it might as well be a different species because you just can't relate what they do and what they see as normal is just completely alien to everyday people, I suppose. So it is like they are some kind of monster, I guess. But it's just an interesting sort of
It really is, and it's a twist in its own right. And I do like the fact that it is just a psychopath, if you like.
Yeah.
And I do. It's very interesting because I think this is up there with the very best of Monster of the Week that we've seen so far.
Yeah. It's a really good episode.
Do you know what I mean? And he's not a monster.
Yeah.
So I think it shows exactly what you need from that.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's great. Like we've had these like creatures that but some of the best monsters is just a bloke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
who does horrific things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Shouldn't really just classify him as a bloke. Really fucking terrifying bloke, but
Oh, so we cut then to Faster in his car. And he pulls up on a street corner, and I instantly worried for these girls. I know what's happening now.
Any time I see this, you don't think about, like, because we just don't live in that world at all. What a terrifying profession it is being a prostitute, you know what I mean?
In media, you don't tend to see prostitution in media be there for the storyline of being picked up to have sex. Yeah. Prostitution that I've seen mostly, especially like street corner prostitution, tends to be there for a plot device of a killer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's all I ever see.
Yeah. It's absolutely terrifying that like they stand there and they get into like a car with anybody. It could be literally anyone. Yeah. And at the end of the day, a lot of the people who are picking like prostitutes up aren't the nicest people in the world.
You'd assume so. Yeah.
Yeah, again, you're making some assumptions there. But it's like, that could be anyone. They might just be, somebody who's paying for sex, or they might be somebody who is using this as an opportunity to sort of, I don't know, go on some killing spree. I mean,
and I wonder.
It's happened through history, you know what I mean? Like Jack the Ripper and
stuff. Well, that's
like
what I was thinking. But apart from Jack the Ripper, do you think it's as dangerous? I mean, I know it's dangerous. I know prostitution especially tend to be sort of abused or beat up, if you like. Do you think it's as much of a magnet to serial killers as they do make out in all these shows?
Probably not serial killers.
Or killers in general.
Yeah. I don't know. I reckon it's an easier sort of...
I suppose it's just,
target,
it's someone off the street that you can't be linked to.
Yeah.
That is happy to get into your car or into your house.
That's the thing, yeah. So there's no, like, motive, I suppose. It sounds like we're practicing at the moment. It sounds terrible.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But no, it's just such a... Yeah. I just thought, I was like, man, like, no one talks about this, but it's it must be absolutely horrible, like, of a feeling getting into a car with some random person.
And then you start to think about what's happened in their life, that this is the only way to make money.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we got really real there with this X-Files episode, but terrible.
Oh, well, but you know what? That's what good storytelling does. Good storytelling puts you in the position of the characters.
Yeah,
so you can empathise with them. And yeah, I completely agree, because as soon as I saw him pull up to this street corner, I just thought, God, please don't get into the car with him. Anyway, he pulls up, and of course, he chooses the blonde that's stood there waiting.
It seems like his profile now, isn't it?
It does, at least at the beginning it does. He tells her he wants to pay her for a couple of hours and ends up taking her back to his apartment. He leads her in, she asks why it's so cold in there, and he tells her the air conditioning's broke, but he wants to run her a bath. Leave. Just leave. Just don't stay there at this point. Ugh. So horrible.
Yeah.
So anyway, he runs her this bath.
And it's terrible that, like, you could consider this, he's running a nice
really
little,
friendly,
nice little
you
bath.
could.
Maybe he's Richard Gere in her. Instead, you naturally assume, he's a freak.
You would though, wouldn't you? There's no way you'd stay in the house, especially not after this next question.
Yeah.
So he runs to the bath and he asks the escort if her hair is treated, just so he knows what shampoo to use. Oh, it gives you the creeps. It really does.
I just wrote in my notes, fuck this guy. hate him. Absolutely hate him. But kudos to the actor, because he made me hate him.
Yeah, very good point.
Yeah.
So she seems cautious at first. Nothing that him offering more money can't solve, because he does. And she just says, well, I'll go along with it then. And the phone rings. Faster answers. He's got the job, basically. But then the escort walks in behind him and says, what's going on? The bath is freezing cold. And she notices that his bedroom is decorated with these stolen funeral wreaths all over his room. So obviously she starts to get scared.
This is the point where she realises this guy's he's a bit weird.
Yeah. Yeah. She tells him to stay away from her. Bearing in mind she's only wearing a towel at this point. So it's not like she can just go running off. He begins following her through the apartment, and the camera cuts as we hear her scream. Oh, I hate this guy.
Yeah.
Later that night, police have set up a crime scene, and Mulder and Scully arrive with Mo. And Mo tells them it seemed like the same suspect. All the fingernails and the hair had been taken, but this time he had taken some fingers too. And this isn't at the apartment. This is out sort of on a field somewhere. So he's obviously taken the body and just disposed of it. Mulder goes to see the body, but Scully stays back. She can't look, and she starts to become a little bit distressed again. The next day, Faster pulls up in his new works van. So obviously he started his new job. Oh, this scene annoyed me as well. How stupid is this woman? We'll get to it.
I mean, to be fair to her, it's a really nice neighbourhood, and
I don't buy that.
Do you know what? This day and age makes us like this. I imagine, like, 20 years ago, in a really small town, people are like that. You hear about stories of, like, people in the 60s going, I'll leave my front door open. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's a difference between leaving your front door open and telling a guy, you can come in whenever you like, even if we're not in the house. This guy talks to you like he talks to her. Would you trust him?
This day and age, no. Not in a million
Back then,
years.
20 years ago, would you trust him? He talks to you the exact same way.
I don't know, I probably would.
All he had to do was offer you a chocolate.
Like, yeah, fair enough, mate. Yeah, come in. But no, it is... I think we are, like, these days, very cynical. Like, and if someone's really friendly, instant we're like, he's either a con man or a murderer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we instantly, like, are off guard if somebody's nice. So I think it is hard to sort of look at that. But I think in her world, like the old delivery driver was the nicest guy in the world, so they were just like, yeah, it must be another nice guy delivery driver.
Yeah, I suppose.
I'm trying to look at it through her. What's it? I would never do this. Like, if somebody was like my new delivery driver, like if Morrison's was delivering other supermarkets are available. If
there's only one, I'd shop that.
If they were coming, like, delivering my shopping, I wouldn't tell them that I'll just use the back door, it's always open,
no,
you know what I mean?
Not a chance.
Never would do that, you know what I mean?
I've actually got a story about how cynical we are nowadays.
Go on.
And it happened to me last week.
Yeah.
I went out and I don't smoke in the house. So I always go out front if I'm going for a smoke. And so I went outside. And this is like 1:00 in the morning, just before I was going to go to bed. And I looked down the street, and there's a guy on the corner of the road, and it's a fairly long road. I could see him. He wasn't so far away, but I could see him, and he was just stood there. And it looked like he was staring at me. I couldn't quite make out, but it looked like he was staring at me.
That would be me locking the door.
Right, so I'm like, I've just lit up, and I'm just like, right, it's probably nothing. Probably got some guy walking the dog. So I do the usual macho bullshit thing of trying to sort of shoulders back, I ain't scared of you type thing. I didn't want to look weak, do you know what I mean? It's just stupid stuff that doesn't make a difference, but like in your own mind at the time, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to make myself as big as possible.
I always, if I'm walking past a crowd of people, I always put my hood up and try and like, I want to look like as much of a drug dealer as I can.
Bullshit psychology that you teach yourself that's going to work. So anyway, I'm stood there. And this guy just won't stop fucking staring. He's just staring straight at me, right? I've just realised how much we're swearing in this episode. I do apologise.
This is our X-rated episode.
So he's just staring at me, right? And I'm almost finishing my smoke. And I've walked to the edge of my garden. And I'm just sort of staring back at him. I'm like, what is going on here? And then I see him stub his smoke out and walk back into the house. He's probably thinking the same thing about me as I am to him. And I was just like, how cynical are we? That we're both just two people having a smoke. And we're both just like terrified of each other. And we're locking eyes.
What a world we live in.
What a world. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent.
Talking of which, we might as well stay on this tangent.
Yeah, go for it.
I was watching something with Darren Brown. I'm not sure it's pronounced. And he was talking about his new show that he did. But he was also talking about him almost being in a fight when he was much younger in his magician career, I guess. And he said he walked past a guy who instantly just went, "What are you staring at? What are you staring at?" And he, because he's a psychologist, knows about what thing to say.
Yeah.
He wanted to try and like diffuse the situation, and basically, because he's like, I'm not going to beat this guy, he'll deck me.
Yeah.
So he said the best thing that you can do is say a completely logical phrase that's completely out of context to him. So he said to this guy, after he said, "What are you looking at?" He was like, "Fences over here just aren't as tall as they are in Spain." And the guy just was like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, when I was in Spain, there was a fence that was just a bit smaller, like, you know, than it is over here. So it's just different, isn't it?" The guy completely bamboozled, didn't know what to do. He ended up talking to him and finding out that his girlfriend had bottled somebody in the night, so he was just really pent up and angry. And it's like, I was like, that's such a good idea. Like, if you just confuse, they're like, what?
Yeah,
if someone said that to me,
there's a lot of psychological tricks, isn't there? Like to get around it, just to diffuse situations.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's just interesting guy. Go on.
That made me, maybe this prostitute could have used that earlier.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it works on like absolute like psychopaths. Yeah.
Imagine in this episode how confused we'd be if he turns around off the phone and the prostitute goes, "The fences here aren't as big in Spain." Imagine how confused we'd be.
What?
Anyway, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah.
He's pulled up, he's gone into this house, he's delivering what looks like frozen food.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically. So she invites him in, no worries at all. He starts stocking a fridge or a freezer. And the woman introduces herself and then introduces him to her daughter, who he immediately seems to become infatuated with.
Yeah.
He then asks to use the washroom, and when he's there, he starts looking through the bin and then finds clumps of hair in the bin.
Yeah.
He just starts smelling it. Ugh.
Strange guy.
Yeah. He leaves, and as he's leaving the bathroom, runs into the owner, who, like we said earlier, basically tells him, whenever we're out of the house, just come back in using the back door, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I did write down at this point, don't tell people to leave. Leave the door open.
Just lock your doors when you're out.
As a PSA, in 2019, guys, don't tell anyone apart from very close friends or family members that your doors are open and unlocked.
Well, you know what?
You might get murdered.
Especially in, again, stereotyping, but especially in American TV. How many TV shows do you know where they leave the keys under a plant pot outside?
Yeah, that'd be the first place to check if I was a burglar.
Yeah, I cannot fathom why anyone would do that. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't dream of doing that. Yeah, I really wouldn't.
I'd bury it like a dog or something like that.
Just don't leave your key outside. It's simple. Just don't do it.
Oh, if you had buried it, like if you have a spare key, just have a plot of land that you know where it is.
Yeah. You're just gonna bring your shovel every time you want to get into your house.
You're like, I forgot my keys. I've got to get the shovel out of the car.
So at this point, we go to the county morgue. We see an autopsy taking place and Scully performing it as we hear like a report in the background. And she starts talking about how her body has a story to tell and she can figure out what happened by examining the body and reconstructing the events of the death. And we do then later cut to Scully writing the report, and she goes on to say she believes the victim was killed for the express purpose of taking her hair and fingernails, and believes she died because after she was submerged in ice cold water. She goes on to say that this is the most angry and dehumanising murders possible, up there with child killings. Just sort of, I think it's just basically pointing out how hard she's finding this case.
Yeah.
Right up, and you see this all the way through, right up until the end when you get this release, which is, in a weird way, a lovely moment between the two of them. But
that scene is amazing. But we'll
talk about that when we get there. So at the police station, prostitutes that was on the streets with the blonde woman, she's brought in to pick pick the suspect from a lineup, but obviously he's not there. To which Mulder sort of puts together that he's probably not got a criminal record. Mulder and Mo figure out that if he doesn't have a criminal record, they need to figure out a motive to track him down. They go back to basics, basically. And Mulder notes that all of his victims were young, attractive women, and he believes it may be fueled by an unfathomable hatred of women, maybe something to do with his past.
I mean, do they really... I can't remember from the end of it, actually, now. Do they go into what his motive is, other than he likes this?
No. However, again, we can skip back and forth. Yeah. There is the scene at the end with the photos, and you see him. He's got a family full of sisters, and he doesn't look very happy.
No.
So they don't really go into why, but I think that's the point, because I know we're skipping ahead right to the end, so sorry if we're not being chronological, but at the end, the Mulder's voiceover does say that it doesn't take an extraordinary circumstance, it can be just completely ordinary, average people that turn into this, and it can be anybody. And I think that, again, it goes to that point of you don't need to be an actual monster to do monstrous acts. So I don't think it was I think that it was intentional, not revealing it. Is, then we go to, again, apologies for my pronunciation, Los Caritos Adult Education Centre.
Yeah, I just had a classroom down.
Yeah, a classroom. we'll go with yours.
You went one step further. Yeah.
And I thought he was lying, but no, Faster is in a class. He is studying. So maybe he's not like this compulsive liar. Maybe he's just an opportunist.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because he genuinely did need a job to pay for his education.
Well, you always see this, don't you? People with like horrifying, like sort of dark sides to them live quite normal, ordinary lives, and they plod along with their business, and they do these things that you think, how could you even do that? But to them, that's normal. Well, it's as sad, as strange as that sounds, that's normal.
No, it's spot on, because how often do you see, when you see news reports about murders taking place, and they interview the neighbours?
Yeah, I was thinking about this just when you were talking about that. Yeah.
What do the neighbours say? They always, he's a lovely man.
Yeah.
Oh, he helped us cut our grass, and he always pops around with leftovers or something like that. I've never seen a report where the neighbour's gone, I've always thought he was a bit of a prick.
Yeah.
Do you know, it never happens, does it?
Because they're usually found out quite quickly.
Yeah, exactly, I suppose, yeah. So, really interesting. But anyways, listening to his tutor, it does seem like to be like a religious course.
It's sort of like, because they're talking about mythology and stuff like that, aren't they? So it's like, like a course about other past religions, I suppose, religions that aren't used anymore. Ancient ones, is it?
Exactly, yeah. It does as we go into it, he seems to become obsessed with the hair of a fellow student there. Like he literally, the camera focusing right on the hair, and he's sort of staring at her. And all the while this is happening, you hear the tutor talking about Sigrid Freud and like that sort of aspect of it, and like the nature of human beings and why they act like they do. And it is just a little nod to, again, the same thing that we've been speaking about all episode. Why would people do this? Is there a subconscious thing behind it? After the class, he ends up following this woman right back to her car. He introduces himself. He sort of makes up this story about homework, and that's why he's come to see her. But it doesn't last long. He corners her, and she ends up attacking him and running away, screaming for help.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're back up at the autopsy, and Scully's performing it, and as she pulls off the sheet of this autopsy, she has this vision of her being on the slab, looking up and seeing this monster.
It was like a shadow and it, like, kind of thing.
Again, it's like that shadow of that demon, wasn't it?
And at this point, I thought, oh, maybe this is something more like supernatural. Because throughout this episode, it did make me keep flip-flopping between thinking, oh, it's just a normal guy. Not a normal guy. It's just a person, and it's, oh no, it's more than that. But
that's the thing. That's the beauty of this episode, because even though it's the same, so that's the same demon that we saw earlier in the episode, I don't think it is the same. I think that shadowy figure is a metaphor. So for the funeral director, it was a metaphor for just something in the dark, scaring him. Yeah. Something like myself could have been the demon on the end of the street. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. For Scully, it's that little sort of thing in the back of her head of when she was abducted, when it was happening to her. Yeah, exactly. And so this monster, despite it looking the same throughout, it's a reference point for the monsters we deal with every day. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter what it looks like. It can look like that. It can look like anything that scares you, but that's what it is. Yeah. Ends up being a nightmare. She wakes up from it, and the phone is ringing. Mulder tells her they think they've got him.
Yeah. Instantly, as soon as I said, I think we've got him, I was like, it's going to be some guy. Yeah. It's not going to be the right guy.
I had the exact same thought. Yeah. Which it is. In the police station, Mose explains to Mulder and Scully what happened to the guy that was attacked. Very similar circumstances, but when he leads us to the cell, we realise it was another guy who had just been attacked by a prostitute. Yeah. Because the prostitutes have started carrying knives since what happened.
He's got like a cut on his eye. And
yeah. So you'd assume he just got a little bit too rough with his prostitute, and she's attacked him. Yeah. As they're interviewing him now, we do see in the cell behind him, Fast has been taken in. And what's he looked straight at? Scully's hair. He's getting this obsession with Scully now.
Yeah, I started fearing for Scully at this point. Like, again, she's always under target, isn't she?
I just feel like if I was a murderer though, or like an opportunist, like this guy seems to be, why would you go for an FBI agent? Do you know what I mean?
You're opening yourself up to definitely be caught.
Yeah, exactly. Just, I mean, I'm not trying to sort of get into the mind of this psycho, but just choose somebody else. Anyway, they conduct the interview. They leave. Mulder knows straight away this isn't the guy they're looking for. Yeah. And as they're leaving, Scully notices that Fast was staring at her. Becomes a little bit unnerved again. But she catches up with Mulder and asks if she can focus on the evidence and go back to Washington, run for fingerprints, etc. And Mulder says, "Are you having trouble with this case? Is this..." Because he's noticed. And she denies it. And I think Mulder knows that she's having trouble because he says, you know what, that's a really good idea. You go back to Washington, you do what you need to do. But he does also say that I'd like to think that you could tell me if you was having trouble.
That's the thing. They've been through so much, and you think they'd be completely open. And I mean, when she's talking about Mulder later on, and that's a really good scene as well. When she's talking about, she even says that he's the only person she trusts with her life, basically. And it's really nice to see that they see each other like a couple.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly right. Yeah. And in that scene that you're talking about later on, she goes on to mention that she doesn't want Mulder to feel like he has to protect her. But again, that's sort of like this what's the word? I don't think it's really... I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I just think it's unfounded because everything that's happened to Scully, Mulder hasn't ever really felt that need to protect her. Like, Mulder, more than anybody else, knows that Scully can handle herself and has trusted her to handle herself. But it's, again, she's not thinking straight.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Scully goes back to the FBI headquarters in Washington, and she gets the fingerprints analysed. The analyst there, or the technician, or whatever you want to call him, basically says, I'm struggling to find anything on any of the fabrics or the material, but I'll keep working.
It's satin, isn't it, which doesn't hold a print?
Apparently doesn't hold a print, But he tells her,
I never knew that.
No, me neither, no, but I suppose we're not experts.
Serial killers, take note. I hope we don't have any. That's really bad press,
in this weird silky suit.
Yeah.
So yeah, he thinks he might have wore gloves or something. But yeah, Scully mentions to him that she's got a flight booked for the next night. See what you can find out. And then she goes into the employee assistance program and speaks to a social worker there. And basically, this is her acknowledging that there's something wrong and trying to sort it out herself. She talks her problems through. She says that she can detach herself from the bodies, the countless bodies that she does autopsies for, but is struggling with this particular case. And the social worker mentions that she's been talking about herself in the second person, and she feels like that's because she's trying to detach herself from the situation.
Yeah, because that's like a common thing you hear about, and like when you're it's
in your mind, it's not happening to you.
I didn't realise it until she mentioned it, and then I was like, she has been, so it's a nice sort of reveal, I guess.
Again, a common theme throughout this episode, we're getting into the sort of psychology of why we do what we do. And so that it works for both Scully and Faster as well. So it's this common theme threaded throughout. The social worker asks why she can't talk to her partner. And Scully tells her that even though she trusts him more than anybody, she doesn't want him to feel like he has to protect her, like I said before. And the social worker mentions the death of her father recently, her illness, her disappearance.
Yeah.
They're all instances that can leave you extremely vulnerable. And Scully says she knows this. She's aware, she's got the wherewithal to know why she's feeling like she is. And she says, even goes on to say that she knows that there's predators all around them. And it's her job to protect people from them. And that's what sort of pushes her forward. That's what gives her the faith. But she's just kind of losing that right now. Anyway, later that day, she goes back to the fingerprint technician.
Just before we move on.
Carry on.
This is such a great it's a really great monologue from her, and you find out so much, especially about her, how she feels about her relationship to Mulder.
Yeah.
That now, like she even says, she trusts him more than anyone else. At this point, they are more than just partners. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And it's definitely hinting at that potential romance that I get the feeling we all know is coming, whether you've watched it or not.
I'd assume so, yeah. And I think, you know what the key is with scenes like this, in my mind anyway, is that the difficulty you have with two strong characters, like Mulder and Scully, who are both are very strong in their own right, it's difficult to get this relationship across past a certain stage. You need moments of weakness like this.
Yeah, and I think both sides have had their weakness.
Oh, certainly. I think Mulder more than Scully, in all honesty.
I think, because Mulder's played off a lot more as like comedic and he'll joke about things. But the amount of trauma that he's had about his sister and about not having his faith in what he does rewarded, basically. The amount of weakness you see in him sometimes.
But an interesting point that I've literally only just thought of right then. Isn't it interesting that we both see how important the other person is to the other when they lose faith? Because Scully literally says in this scene, she needs the faith that she's doing the right thing back.
Yeah.
And it's when Mulder loses faith in what he's working towards, that's when we sort of see this sort of weaker side to him.
Yeah.
And he needs Scully. So very interesting counter. Both talking about faith, but like faith on completely different levels.
Yeah, exactly.
A very interesting point. So yeah, she goes back to the technician, and he's found a fingerprint on one of the victim's fingernails. So Scully goes to the phones Mulder and tells her. But in between all this, the technician also mentions that an agent called and asked about her, and he told her she'd be on a plane. I feel like this technician was a little bit negligent.
Yeah.
Just telling any old person where this FBI agent's going to be.
Yeah.
Because Scully does ask Mulder, was it you, was it Mo? And they both say, no, none of us called. She just doesn't think any more about it. But yeah, she does send the print over to Mulder so he can sort it out, which we see straight off in the next episode. In the next scene, should I say. We see the FBI raiding Faster's house.
Yeah.
And he's not there. They find the wreaths, they find the weird bathroom, and they also find a finger in the freezer.
Do you know what? This is disgusting.
Yeah.
Frozen sprouts. What a monster.
If we didn't know he's a monster before, he definitely is now.
Yeah, I love that. As soon as I saw it, I was like, primed for a joke.
They also do find like clumps of hair and stuff like that as well. So yeah, they put out an APB on Faster. At least they know who he is now. Did I forget to mention that he was released?
No, they sort of... I don't think they go over that. They just...
There is a scene where he gets released from prison because he asks... I think I forgot to go over it, but he asks the other cellmate who Scully is.
Yeah, because he goes, well, he isn't released at that point. He's still in the cell. He's talking to...
That's right.
Yeah.
And he's asking like what they was asking you about, and do you remember the names? And the other guy says, I don't remember the guy, but the one was Scully. Yeah. So that's how he knows to call for her. Sorry, I must have missed that.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So yeah, they don't find her, but they know who they're looking for. And we jump to the airport, and we know what's coming now.
Yeah, exactly.
We see Scully, she's renting a car, she drives off, and Faster's there waiting for her, and he follows her. And they end up getting into this sort of roadside collision. He's just ramming her off the road.
Yeah, I thought this was weird at this point, because he knows she's an FBI agent. She's going to have a gun. Why would you try and crash somebody off the road who is already freaked out by you? Like, I know, obviously, he goes out the road and probably gets knocked out, whatever. But if he just rams off the road, she gets out of the car, pulls a gun at him, he's knackered.
Yeah, I know.
What's he going to do?
Maybe he's not thinking straight. I'm not sure. Maybe he's just so blinded by this compulsion to do what he wants to do. But I mean, yeah, I suppose you could look at it in that same light of if he knows. Psychopaths know what they're doing. They know the hurt they're causing when they do this. Do you know what I mean? Like, why are they still doing it? And it is that obsessive side of them that they can't feed that compulsion without actually just doing it.
I have heard somewhere as well that sometimes they don't see that. They
sort of disconnect.
They disconnect from the feelings of others. They can't empathise with others' feelings, and that's why they do horrendous things, because it's like any other person, like you see this in like soldiers who've come back from war, they're normal people, they're trained to like kill people, but if they do, they're scarred by this. Yeah. Whereas like somebody who's got like a mental block, I suppose, on that damn empathy, it's easy, you know what I mean? Or it's easier for them to do.
It's like playing a video game at that point.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Interesting, it could be either things. And maybe that is why he's ramming people off the road, because if he just doesn't even consider the danger.
Yeah, maybe it's
maybe.
That. Yeah.
Anyway, so Mulder's still at the FBI base, the sort of the headquarters. Where was we again? Are we in Minnesota? Minneapolis. Minneapolis, yeah. And Mulder's worried about Scully. She should have been there 3 hours ago. And another agent approaches and tells them that they found Scully's car. So they rush off to the scene of the accident. They find the car in a ditch, empty. Mulder notices that she was forced off the road. There's scratches on the car. She says, it's by a white car. Let's see whether we can find it.
Yeah, I feel like that's searching. When he said, like, oh, we're going to do scans on the paint and stuff, I thought, I don't know if they're going to get much from that.
Yeah.
A white
car.
Yeah.
We cut to an abandoned house, and Faster's bound and gagged Scully. He's brought her back to this looks like a mansion. And he starts running a bath for her. And he goes to collect her, and as he opens the door, Scully briefly sees this monster again. What we now know to be like this metaphor of just something that's terrifying.
Yeah, and they even go on later on to explain that like people, in the Jeffrey Dahmer case, wasn't it? They said that they saw him as some kind of monster, like when they saw him. So it's that kind of...
Definitely. And that's what she's seeing. But back at the FBI...
One thing I did note as well, he said that he was running a cold bath and doing shampoo for her hair. That's not good for your hair, is it? I always thought warm water is good for hair care.
I'd love to say I'm an expert. I don't really know. Is cold water bad for your hair?
I'm kind of bald, so I don't know how much I know about hair care. But yeah, I always thought it was warm water was better for it.
I think it's better I think it's better to clean it. Yeah. But I don't know, because like people used to wash their hair with cold water. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Tell you what, get in touch if you know what.
Is it better warm or cold water for your hair?
Well, should we put up
asking for a friend?
Should we put up a Twitter poll?
Yeah, we'll put up a poll. Do you know what? It would be embarrassing if no one votes on it, though. So
no one knows either.
We'll delete the tweet if no one votes on it.
Yeah, so Mulder doesn't have any luck locating the car, as like you said earlier.
Thought, yeah.
He's looking for a white car. I think doesn't Mo say there's 60,000 cars that match the description?
Something like that, yeah.
So good luck with that.
Yeah.
And he also notices that there's no witnesses as well. No one saw her leave the airport. No one saw her on the road. He asks Mo to go back to basics as to where they could be. And Mo says, well, he could be anywhere apart from his mother's. Mm. And Mulder's like, what do you mean by that? And Mulder mentioned earlier in the episode that it's probably down to this sort of underlying problem with the mother, this hatred for women.
Hatred for women, yeah.
And it probably stemmed from a problem with his mother. And this gets Mulder thinking maybe it is something to do with the mother. So they start searching for her house.
I do think that this is sort of like that, when they're talking about this, it's that sort of, do you know, Psycho is the film Psycho is sort of like invaded all types of pop culture now.
Yeah.
So naturally, if you hear about a guy who hates women, you think, oh, it's something to do with his mother.
Yeah.
Like Norman Bates, I suppose. So I wonder if he was making a joke about that, and then he's like, hang on a bit.
Yeah.
That might be true.
That's true. I mean, I think isn't that like Psychology 101 though? Yeah. That like most of your actions are determined by your relationship with your parents. Because when you're most impressionable at that young age, it sort of stems the person who you are, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, they start looking for this house. And they find the mother used to live in Florida, but died a year ago. And she also had a white sedan registered to her. They check to see if she's got a residence in the States. In the state that they're in, sorry. We cut back to the abandoned house. Fast as approaching Scully cuts the bonds off her feet. And as she's watching him do it, his face doesn't turn into a monster this time. It turns into all these other faces.
Yeah.
And again,
interesting.
I think another metaphor for it could be anybody. This isn't. She's not scared of this particular person. She's scared of everyone that could be like this. Yeah. All these random, unimportant people that could turn into this.
And with her connection to the FBI, she's probably seen this about how prolific these sort of things are.
These faces might be people from the past that she's put away. Do you know what I mean? You don't know.
Yeah.
But eventually it turns into the monster again. Faster tells her not to be afraid and takes her into the bathroom. He asks her about her hair, and Scully then throws him into the bath before trying to escape. And we at this point we're like at a chase scene. He chases her around the house. The doors are locked, so she can't get out. He eventually tracks her down into this cupboard, but she gets away from him by spraying him in the face with bug spray. And they end up getting into a scuffle and falling down the stairs. He drops his gun. Oh yeah, I forgot to say he grabs a gun from a drawer.
Yeah.
He drops his gun, and Scully's about to reach for it. He kicks out of her hand. Just as about to go south, Mulder storms in and saves the day, with the FBI in tow. Scully, they start to arrest him while Mulder tends to Scully, and Scully tells her that she's fine. How was it? She did first. How did you know? And it turns out that this house was left to his sister in a will.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it was a matter of sort of elimination at that point. Which house he'd be in. Yeah. He asks if she's okay, and she says she's fine. She's fine. And then she breaks down, and just it was in a weird way, a lovely scene because Mulder just holds her, and she sort of breaks down as if like she doesn't want to sort of show that weakness or show that side of her to Mulder, and then she just stops and just grabs him and just holds on to him, and it was a really lovely scene.
I really like this scene, and throughout the entire episode, I thought Gillian Anderson was really great at playing this somebody who's been under so much stress, and it's finally all built up to this point of she's just had all this like sort of trauma in her life at the moment. So, and
I feel like we have this conversation like every 5 or 6 episodes or so, but Like, she is a phenomenal actress. She is so good. And, like, before I started watching X-Files, I didn't really know that much about her. Like, I haven't seen her in anything else, really.
You know what? She's become popular again lately. She's in that new program on Netflix.
Sex Education, isn't it? Yeah,
I really want to watch that. That looks really good.
I haven't seen anything of it, if I'm honest. I did hear, just in my usual looking up X-Files news and whatnot, I did see something about it. But yeah, and before this, I'd never really seen her in anything. Phenomenal actress. And taking nothing away from David Duchovny, but David Duchovny has a much easier job, I feel. And again, I could be completely wrong, but I feel like it's a lot easier to play this roguish scamp. You know what I mean? You can just be the comedy character, and
it's an easier character to love just instantly. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like everyone likes that cocky. So I mean, that Han Solo
exactly
figure,
right,
like, which we've said before.
The lovable rebel.
Yeah, it's such an easy like sort of character to latch on to of like this guy like or this girl, I suppose.
And we all know that character. And I feel like it's easier to portray that. It's a lot different to portray what Scully is supposed to be.
This cynical, like quite serious,
but with that weakness. And I feel like she just does it absolute justice.
Yeah,
like really phenomenal actress. And it's her eyes more than anything else. Like, she can just tell a whole story with her eyes. So, yeah, just a lot of credit to her, because the problem is, as we're going episode by episode, we don't want to repeat ourselves constantly. Yeah. And we don't want to tell everyone how good an actress she is every episode. But I feel like
key points,
we can't take it for granted, because she's so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're coming towards the end of the episode now. We get a final scene of... It's Mulder's report, but in the background, we see pictures of Faster growing up. And again, key points throughout his childhood, sisters around him all the time. He looks like a psychopath when he's a kid.
He kind of looked like young Sheldon. I don't know why. So I was like, oh no. I understand why he went wrong.
So yeah, Mulder, during all this, reports that... seemingly everyday ordinary people could grow up to be the devil incarnate, basically.
Yeah.
And what happens to those victims could happen to you, and you never know if it is going to happen to you, which is as scary as any X-File he's ever worked on. And again, really honing in on this idea that I know we'll keep on saying it, but the whole episode's about this monster the X-Files, you don't have to be like this thing from another planet to be this absolute monster. It can just be an everyday person.
I love this bit because this felt as much or as close as you're going to get to the X-Files breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
This was Mulder talking to the audience saying normal people can be terrifying.
Yeah. And we do finish off with seeing a singular photo of Faster behind bars. So he's been caught at least.
Yeah.
What did you think of this episode, Luke?
I really like this episode, especially at the conclusion of it, finding out that he is just a guy. Because every X-File episode that we've seen so far has either been some monster from the past, some mutant, or an alien, or some conspiracy around these things. So to actually have one where it's just putting on Front Street of human beings can be absolutely terrifying monsters. They don't need to have special powers. They don't need to be linked to an alien conspiracy. They can just be monsters. And knowing, well, as you know in life, that you hear about these stories, and it makes it the most terrifying one. You know what I mean? Like you can have a like Tombs was a scary episode, but this is way more scary because it's like, well, this guy,
it could happen.
That could happen. Yeah. That could happen tomorrow.
I completely agree. I thought this was... I mean, I don't know. I don't know whether it's better than Tombs for me or anything like that. I think it's up there. Without a shadow of a doubt for me, it's up there as one of the best monsters of the week. And the fact that this isn't a monster is testament to how good this episode is. I really enjoyed it. And I don't know what... Again, the thing is, whenever we're talking about these episodes, I don't look into like reviews or anything like that. I don't know how well received these episodes are. Yeah. So maybe people won't, like this as much as we both found out that we have.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed this episode. It's one of my favourites.
I really like this one. Talking of review, the only time I know an episode's got praise is because I saw a video or something like, or a list ages ago that was like the top 10 X-Files episodes. So if I see one that's was in that, 10. I'll be like, oh, this must be a good one. But other than that, some of the other ones, I don't even know what this one's about. So we're going completely blind. But I don't know if this was well received, but I really enjoyed it.
I can't imagine it not being well received because it was just such a good story, just a nice simple story, and it's what a Monster of the Week should be.
Yeah, exactly.
So now that the episode's been done with, shall we get to our favourite segment?
Luke's production notes.
So this week, my notes are as follows.
What a weird way to go into it.
Yeah, I always find this, it's a hard thing to sort of start talking. Maybe you should just literally start reading the notes next time.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I'll
give it
a go.
Well, let's do it now. Luke's production notes.
No, that's weird. I reckon we just carry on. So, the episode's initial script, Faster, was a necrophiliac, but this was rejected by the Fox Broadcasting Company for being unacceptable for broadcast standards.
I can see that.
I mean, the episode now, if you sort of replace that, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But to be fair, I don't think it changes the episode that much.
Not really.
It's just... I understand why they wouldn't want that on daytime telly or...
Yeah, you know. That's sort of what you see in, like, weird horror films. You know what I mean? Like, not on...
But
Fox.
I think it works just as well having him collecting trophies.
It's sort of, you can imply that it's some kind of... He's getting some kind of, like, sexual satisfaction from it.
Yeah. And that's the impression I got.
Yeah, without going into the nitty-gritty.
Ins and outs, if you will.
It's possibly the darkest moment we'll ever have.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
A series creator, Chris Carter, described it. When I handed the script in, it was really for a necrophiliac episode, and that just didn't fly. You cannot do the combination of sex and death on network television.
That's a bad combination.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't work.
No,
not on network television. Cable, maybe HBO will go nuts for that.
Oh yeah. There's not enough incest involved in this storyline.
Carter was forced to tone down the script by changing Faster from a necrophiliac to a death fetishist and diminishing Faster's sexual obsession. He considered that the sexual content was implied and understood by audiences, and that Faster still resulted in a creepy character, particularly his creepy arrogance in using shampoo on the hair of his victims.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Yeah, it was implied, and I feel like everyone picked that up.
Exactly, yeah. You get the general vibe of the character.
That scene with the bin, when he's fishing the hair off the bin, he's smelling it. I think that's all you need to see.
Yeah, exactly. The episode's original title was Fascination.
Ooh.
Not to be confused by the Alphabet song.
So two different things.
Yeah.
Fascination.
Get out.
What was the Irresistible alluding to there? The title?
I guess...
What, like he just couldn't resist?
I guess that he couldn't resist,
doing these things, I suppose.
Yeah. That's the only thing I can sort of...
Maybe. Yeah, interesting.
The episode is one of the few in the series that has no paranormal elements to it. Mm-hmm. So that implies that there's more. Kind of spoiling stuff for us there, but we'll see.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
To be fair, that's not really a spoiler.
I can't imagine there being that many.
There's going to be some with aliens in it in future. So, yeah, don't really give much away. Carter said of the episode's conception, it was my first chance to work with David Nutter in a long time, and I wanted to give him something he could sink his teeth into. It was a little different for us. It doesn't really have a paranormal aspect, except for Scully's perception of her deepest fears. I felt that I had to figure out what she's most afraid of, and she's most afraid of those things that most of us are afraid of. The idea of dying at the hands of someone, creature or not, and she's helpless to do anything about it. I thought it was a very good way to explore Scully's character.
That is very interesting. It was a little bit different to what we said, but that is an interesting thing. That when you said, when we was talking about the guy changing faces, and it could be people she knows.
Yeah.
So that was intentional. That it could be anybody, not just this one person.
It's just that fear of being murdered, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just,
And I do like listening to these production notes because whenever we've got like these thoughts on the episode, and then we hear sort of, especially when it's Carter, he usually tells people sort of what he meant in each episode. And it's nice to know that the message that he tried to get through comes across.
Yeah.
And it's not just, being force-fed, you can pick these themes up without it.
Or even when it's slightly different as well. It's interesting to hear their intention and knowing that we picked up on something slightly different, but we're never usually like, I didn't get that at all. You know what I mean? It usually is something along those lines, but slightly different. And it's nice hearing a different opinion on it. That's why we like people texting, tweeting in, texting if you want. I don't want to give my number out. I'll end up on so many ad lists or something like that. The scene where Dana Scully imagines Faster appearing as a devil was influenced by a real-life account, or real-life accounts, as described by Carter. There are reports of people who had been under the spell of Jeffrey Dahmer who had actually claimed that he shapeshifted during those hours when they were being held hostage. That his image actually changed. This was what I was mentioning earlier, that I read up on this bit. But I find that really interesting that your brain sort of doesn't know how to handle this. So
it just sort of fills in the blanks, if you like.
Yeah, basically. Nutter said, in many ways, Chris wanted to sell the idea that as established in Mulder's closing dialogue in the show, not all terror comes from the paranormal. It could come from the person next door. Again, what we were saying as well through the episode. Carter said of the casting of Nick Chinlund as Faster, I thought it was a wonderfully creepy villain. The casting of that show was very difficult. We saw many actors, but there was a quality I was looking for and couldn't put my name on that quality. I finally figured out what it was when Nick came in, and he had a kind of androgynous quality that worked. I thought he looked like Joe College, but he could scare the hell out of you. I think Joe College is sort of like an American term for like Joe Bloggs, you know what I mean? Like an average standard guy, or I think it's like a term for. I mean, have a look if you can, but I think it's like a term for somebody who just looks like an average normal guy.
Which would fit for the episode.
I think this Nick Chinlund was in Buffy as well. Something else, but I can't remember what character he played. Producer Glenn Morgan said Chinlund's performance was outstanding. Nothing else to really say there. I agree.
And to be fair, we didn't really mention. I mean, we did mention that his performance makes us hate him. But it was a good performance, and it was just so creepy the way he did everything, not just the way, not when he was actually in the act, but the way he was doing everything.
Nutter stated, Nick Chinlund was wonderful to work with. The guy was like putty in my hands. He was great. If you're looking for someone to underline the weirdness and strangeness of the character, he did that. So
I completely agree.
Good guy to work with. Nutter said of the episode, I really worked hard to make it a special show because I thought it was special. It was Gillian's post-traumatic stress episode because she'd not really had the opportunity to vent her feelings about the whole Dwayne Barry situation. This was an opportunity to sit back and let all of that happen. So again, I didn't read all of these. That was just something that I noticed. But it's again something that we said as well. This is her dealing with that trauma.
Yeah, so, definitely.
And the last one, Carter particularly liked the scene where a clearly disturbed Scully hugs Mulder, claiming it was a tender moment between two characters that had not shown that much affection for each other. Yeah, I don't know. They have sort of shown affection throughout the series up to this point. So I wouldn't say they've not given as much affection as this scene, but they definitely have shown it.
But I feel like in this particular scene, maybe what he means is they don't often show their weaknesses to each other. Like, they don't often let the sort of the curtain fall and just they're there, do you know what I mean? And they're for all to see. And I did feel like there was something particular in this moment where it just felt like she needed a hug. Yeah, she needed a hug from Mulder. I want her best friend. You know what I mean? That's what it felt like.
Exactly. That's it. That's my production notes.
Wow, superb. I think we should get into a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, we've had quite a bit actually.
So do you want to start us off, Luke?
Yeah, I can do.
We'll just pick and choose some of the comments we've had over the last week.
So this one's from our Podbean account itself, and it's from Eleanor's Chan 22, as we know is Ray on Twitter as well.
Oh yeah.
It says, "Thank you guys, great discussion. You don't have to wait too long for later to get to the comedy episodes." Which was what we mentioned in the episode earlier, wasn't it? That we were looking forward to these like more comedic style of episodes. But she said she won't spoil that for us.
What was this episode that you...
Excelsis Day.
Yeah,
of course. So yeah, she said, this episode's gotten better to me after I rewatched it from my first viewing. Like you guys, I just feel that the insensitive way the rape victim was treated, I mean, she wouldn't be going back to work. No matter what, the rape is bad enough, but to be brutally raped by an invisible entity, I'm surprised Michelle can still talk. And Mulder being so skeptical and dismissive. My excuse is that Mulder is just saying that the case is not an X-file, but for the local police to take care of. Not that he does not care, but that they have to prioritise their case on just paranormal. That's just my take on it. But that's an interesting point of the way that this is dealt with in the episode, because it does seem quite blasé about it.
We had a few comments from people saying that in some cases that they didn't like the episode because of this fact of Mulder being so dismissive.
I can understand that. Yeah.
Well, we had issues with it ourselves, didn't we?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I remember saying that the way they did the ghost thing was the best way I've seen the ghost side of things done. But like the whole idea of being so dismissive, it needs to be spoke about because there is something about that. But I can see that side of things too. Yeah. There is two ways to take it.
And there's also as well, like, the way we sort of talk about it now and say that is not okay these days. It was, I suppose, different the way they treated it in 95?
Mm-hmm.
So it is different of when they recorded it. But you have to be aware of what the times are like now, to sort of call that out and say, that's not okay now. It's different a time then, but yeah, you have to be perceptive of what it's like in the modern day, I suppose. Yeah.
And so, okay, we'll go to me now. We've got a tweet from Maria on Twitter, and she's put this is with regards to the Simpsons episode.
Mm-hmm.
She's put, just listening to this now. #slowpoke. Don't worry. Honestly, the amount of people that we see starting right from the beginning, the first download's constantly being downloaded.
When we see our stats, it's amazing that our first episode, which quite frankly is probably not our best, listening back to them, it still keeps getting downloads. Like every week, we'll still get like a few downloads for the first one, so people must be like picking it up
and then joining along with us.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to you catching up and just joining along with us week by week then.
Yeah.
But anyway, she says, with regards to the Simpsons episode, do you remember that scene where Homer takes the breathalyzer test and it comes up as Boris Yeltsin?
Yeah.
And we didn't know what that joke meant. Mm-hmm. Well, she tells us that Boris Yeltsin was president of Russia during the 90s and was known for appearing to be drunk at various international events. She says she's the child of the 90s, so should be able to help us fill in on some of the zeitgeist from when these episodes airs. So, great.
Yeah,
exactly what we needed someone there to help us out with that one because we had no idea.
That's the trouble, isn't it? Like we are born in the 90s, but the trouble is...
92. What, you're 91?
91, yeah. But the trouble is, we were growing up, really, when you're conscious of, like, news is when you're sort of, like, 14 onwards, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like, those ages, which is the 2000s then.
Are we technically millennials? I think we are, aren't we?
Do you know what? It's weird, the definition of a millennial, because technically, I think anyone born after, like, 1979 is a millennial.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's crazy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, interesting.
So, I think it really is... I don't know. I think, basically... However you want to insult somebody that day, whatever you call it, it's become such a dirty word lately. Any millennial, which I don't know, I don't care, just like whatever.
I think we've got time for one more. Shall we?
Yeah.
Have we got anything about last week's episode?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So we got a tweet from Kathy, who's talking about Aubrey, and she says that her problem with Aubrey is that the actress cast to play BJ was simply too old for the role. I checked; she was 45 at the time. She's supposed to be the daughter of a man conceived 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I agree with you. She gave a great performance, but it throws the timeline off. That's something I didn't even think about. That is true. Yeah.
That is very interesting. I remember reading that comment actually because I actually replied to Kathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That is very true. Like I didn't think about that at all during recording. So
yeah, he was a young guy, wasn't he? Young dad. 5 maybe.
Will, just before we go off, I will say, Ray, who you talked about earlier, she did mention to us that she's glad we was able to finish last week's episode.
Yeah.
And she said the second half came out okay. So I hope everyone else enjoyed it. We do apologise again for the mix-up. And I've listened back to it. I think it was all right.
It's okay, yeah. I wouldn't want to do it again like that, though. This is such a better format. I can actually see.
When you just vibe off each other a little bit,
exactly, yeah.
But fingers crossed that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Wait there, I've just got to check the... little joke for you there.
Nice little joke. Yeah. So, I think that's all that we've got time for this week. Mm-hmm. What are we doing next week? What are we...
So the episode title next week, and I apologise to every German-speaking fan of the episode. Oh. This is called, I believe, Der Hand des Violettes. My German pronunciation is not amazing.
Okay.
I think, but that's, I believe, what it's called. Again, little factoid for this. This is actually the first episode of the X-Files I've ever watched.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This next one?
Yeah, the next one.
Okay.
It was one of those where, I think it was on there's a channel in the UK called Spike 5 or something like 5 Spike, whatever it is. And they have old reruns of X-Files on every now and again. And at this point, I'd never seen it before. And I thought, I'll pop it on. And it was just so happens was this episode.
Oh, interesting.
Spoilers, I really liked it then and I really liked it now. So yeah.
Superb.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into that next week. But for now, have you got any last thoughts? What have we been doing to sign off recently? Say goodbye in a different language. Come on. So we've had a look recently, and we've been looking at where our podcast is being downloaded.
Yeah.
And again, we're astounded every week by how many places this podcast is being downloaded. And how many people are getting in touch with us from all over the world.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, you can do by emailing mostunwantedpodcast@gmail.com or just finding us on the various social media. Just search for Most Unwanted Podcast and you'll find us. But yeah, so we've been astounded by where in the world it's been downloaded. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to find a country that it's been downloaded in and say goodbye in their language.
Well, I don't know if it has been downloaded in this language, but this is another way that I can say sayonara.
What's sayonara?
Japanese.
I don't think it's been downloaded in Japan.
Well, this is how we branch off into Japan.
We're just hoping a Japanese person
listens to the very end of the podcast. You go, hey.
Well, I'm going to sign off with arrivederci.
We've done that one.
Have we done arrivederci?
Yeah.
Have we done adios?
I think so. Yeah. We've done all.
Have we done au revoir?
Yeah.
Have we done auf Wiedersehen?
No. There you go.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Pet. Dana Scully imagines Faster appearing as a devil was influenced by real life account. What did I say?
Pretty sure you said penis.
And you said we don't have bloopers. The scene where it was because I said appears and I said penis.
I'm pretty sure you said penis.
What a Freudian slip. Oh, right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I disagree with that. They sort of do show affection throughout the series as going to this point, but I suppose that's more of an explosion of affection.
And again, it's them...
An explosion of affection. Yeah. Not really a good description, is it?
Let's do that one again.